Good morning, everyone. Today, my topic is precision type attenuators. As you know, my name is Bharat Kumar from 6A. Let's start. Look at the diagram. In this diagram, we can see three tapped resistive cards which are shaded in the diagram, namely R1, R2, and R3. Sorry, 1 second. Look at the diagram. We can see in the diagram, we can see three tapped resistive cards which are shaded in the diagram, namely R1, R2, and R3. RC1 and RC2 are the rectangular to circular waveguide transition at both the ends. At the center, C is the circular waveguide section with resistive card R2. A precision type variable attenuators makes use of circular waveguide section C containing a very thin tampered resistive card R2 to the both the sides, which are connected asymmetric section of circular to rectangular waveguide tapered transition RC1 and RC2. The center circular section with the resistive card can be precisely related by 360 with respect to the two fixed sections of circular to rectangular waveguide transition. The induced current on the resistive card R2 due to incident signal is dissipated as it producing attenuation of transmitted signal. The incident TE10 dominant wave in the rectangular waveguide is converted into dominant TE11 mode in the circular waveguide. A very thin tampered resistive card is placed perpendicular to electric field at the center end of each transition section so that it has a negligible effect on the field perpendicular to it but absorbs any component parallel to it. Therefore, TE11 mode is excited in the middle section. If the resistive card in the center section is kept at the angle theta relative to the electric field direction of TE11 mode, the component E cos parallel to the card get absorbed while the component E sin theta is transmitted without attenuation. This latter component finally appears at electric field component E sin square theta in rectangular output guide. Therefore, the attenuation of incident wave is alpha is equal to E by E sin square theta, which is equal to 1 by sin square theta. E gets cancelled, which is equal to 1 by modulus S21. Therefore, the precision rotatory attenuators produce attenuation which depends only on the angle of rotation theta of the resistive card with respect to the incident wave polarization. The modulus S21 is equal to modulus S12, which simplifies they are symmetric, where the VSWR is voltage standing wave ratio is measured at the port concerned. Therefore, the S matrix of ideal precision rotatory attenuator is S is equal to 0 sin square theta, and 0. Thank you.
Okay, Bharat. Any questions? Others? Now, precision type variable attenuator, that is one more type of your attenuator, which makes use of mainly the circular waveguide section. What is actually a waveguide? What is actually a waveguide? So a waveguide is something, see there is, in the name itself it is written waveguide. That means it is a structure that guides the wave. For example, either it can be your electromagnetic wave or sound. So a waveguide, which is nothing but a variable type attenuator, where you have a circular waveguide. Circular waveguide is, so it will be guiding your wave in a circular motion. So that's why it is called as a circular waveguide. So this particular variable attenuator, it will make use of the circular waveguide, where the section is having, you can see, I'll show you the figure, you will have that C section, that is capital C, which is given, or CW, which is circular waveguide. This will contain a tapered resistive card. Tapered means you will have ends of your resistors which are terminated. So those tapered resistor cards, one is you have R2 to both of the sides which are connected. That is your asymmetric sections of your circular waveguide. So if you see the figure, see this is the figure. You have circular waveguide given here, that is CW. And you have the resistors RA, RB, RC. Or if you take it as R1, R2, R3, both are same. So depends on the notation. So this particular waveguide, which is RB, this will be tapered resistive card. Now this, both the sides, in the middle you have RB. The both sides of this resistive cards will be connected to the circular waveguides, asymmetric sections. So one is the topper portion, one more is the lower portion. So this circular to rectangular waveguide taper transition will be RACW, one will be RC and your CRT. So you have circular to rectangular, because from this, if you consider the center portion, from the circular waveguide, it is coming to your rectangular waveguide. And again here, from circular to rectangular sections. So you have RC, RACW, and one more is RC and your CRT. Now the center circular section with the resistive card, this particular, that is the middle one, it can be rotated around 360 degree with respect to two fixed sections what you have, the lower and upper portion, circular to rectangular waveguide transmission. That means from a circular, how the wave is guided through the circular motion, from the circular waveguide, it is getting transmitted to, or transition is done from circular to rectangular waveguide. So the induced current what you have, when you give the modes, that is TE10, TE11. What are TE10 and TE11 mode? Now tell me what is exactly TE there? Anybody? You have studied in electromagnetic theory, I guess. What is TE? No idea. TE is called as transverse electric mode. I've told you already what is transverse electric. If you have electric and magnetic field moving in a perpendicular direction, then we say it as transverse electric. You have to imagine a sine wave traveling in a vertical motion. Imagine one more sine wave traveling in a horizontal motion. So combine both together. That is nothing but your transverse electric. Now, what is actually TE10 mode is, your signals will process along a waveguide now, which will use number of modes. In that, you will have dominant mode, where one has the lowest cutoff frequency. Dominant mode is the one that will have lower cutoff frequency. So if you consider this TE10 mode, since it is getting into rectangular cross section, so this is the rectangular cross section here, the first entrance of your TE10 mode. So this rectangular cross section or a waveguide, it is having TE10 mode. So this TE means transverse electric. which indicates that electric field is transverse to the direction of propagation. In the TE10 mode, you will have magnetic field that is perpendicular to the electric field. Magnetic field will be in the length of lambda by 4 and your electric field will be in the length of lambda by 2. So that's what will be your transverse electromagnetic. If I show you in the figure, so if suppose say you have a wave traveling, so this is your magnetic field, and this is your horizontal, which is your electric field. This particular portion will have lambda by 4 and this particular portion will have lambda by 2. So this will be with respect to TE10 mode. If I consider your TE11 mode, you have again the magnetic field, you have again the electric field. So here the lambda by 2 will be the section, here you will have lambda by 2. So this particular will be TE11 mode. So transverse electric indicates that electric field is transverse to the direction of propagation. Similarly, if you take TE11 mode, you will have half wavelength or 1/2 of wave of electric field to both your broader as well as shorter term. So that's the difference between your TE10 mode and TE11 mode. So both the modes you will be having or you will have in terms of your precision variable rectifier, attenuator. Now here TE10 mode is given to the, or incident current is given to your resistive card. So this, from when you give the current to this particular section, the current will be entering your RB, that is resistive card R2. Now due to the incident signal which is dissipated as heat, or here when you travel, the wave is traveling from TE10 mode. When the current is traveling here, again that is induced in the RB section. Because of this, there is attenuation happening, and the main intention is your power should be reduced. So the attenuation happens here, which means that the power or the heat is dissipated of the transmitted signal. Now the incident TE10 mode, I've told you it is a dominant mode. So dominant wave in the rectangular waveguide here, it is converted because from the rectangular, it is going into circular mode. So TE10 mode, when it enters the circular section, the dominant mode TE10 gets converted to TE11 mode in the circular waveguide. So now what happens? You have a resistive card which is placed perpendicular to the electric field here at the circular end of the transition, so that it will absorb the current what is produced across the RA, and you will have TE11 mode which is excited in the middle section. Now again what happens? This has to travel further. So this resistive card, or if this resistive card in the center section, suppose we say it is at an angle theta, because this will rotate, it is circular, so it has to rotate around 360 degrees. So it is at an angle theta with respect to the electric field direction. So the component, now you know that when you have the electric field and the magnetic field perpendicular to each other, you will have the cos theta term as well as the sin theta term, that is the horizontal section as well as the vertical section. So usually the component E cos theta will be parallel to the card and it will get absorbed, because whatever is along with the line, it will get absorbed. Whereas the component E sin theta, which will be transmitted without the attenuation. So this component will finally appear here, that is in the electric field component, that is E sin square theta rectangular output. So you have to find out the attenuation. So what exactly the concept of electric field is? So if you have the wave traveling, so as I've told you, it will be entering TE10 mode. From a rectangular mode, it is getting into circular mode where it gets converted to TE11. So when you travel or when the wave is there, this will rotate for 360 degrees, the resistive card RB which is placed. So there is an angle inclination theta. So you will have the electric field which is flowing across the device. So that will be E sin theta and one more will be E cos theta. I hope you know this concept. How does it split total electric field? Now this e cos theta is along the line or along the propagation. So this will be almost like a parallel propagation with respect to the e cos theta. So this will be observed. Whereas the remaining, that is e sin theta, will get transmitted from a circular section to again your rectangular section. Again here, the TE mode will get converted from TE11 to TE10. Here also you will have the concept of splitting of electric field to E cos theta and again E sin theta. So this will be absorbed along the line where you have one more, that is, since the electric field will be same, the sin theta will be multiplied. So you have E sin square theta, which is coming out of the device or out of your rectangular section, which is the last one, that is along the R3 or RC section. So the output voltage or the output alpha attenuation, you can write it as, this is nothing but incident wave by the output. Incident wave, what you give is E. Output, what you're getting is E sin square theta. So E and E will get cancelled. You will have the output as 1 by sin square theta. So this will be the attenuation due to the incident wave. Or if you are finding out in terms of dB, it will be alpha in terms of dB, which is nothing but attenuation is always negative. So, sorry, not negative, positive. But when you write for the attenuation, it is 20 log of anything. If you are converting, it is 20 log of sin square theta. So if I write this, it is 20 log, you will have sin square theta minus, sorry, yeah, negative. So you will have minus, this sin square will be coming here, 40 log of sin theta. So that will be in terms of dB, where you can say that since you're taking one port as this, and this will be your second port. If I write the parameter of S21, it is, or with respect to S parameter, reflected incident, which is S21. The output is nothing but alpha, which is also equal to 1 by sin square theta, which is also equal to, in terms of log, if I say, sorry, this is output, incident by output. So it will be 1 by S21. So if I write for log, it will be alpha dB, which is equal to minus 40 log magnitude of, or since you are writing for a sin square, it will be 20 log of 1 by or log S21. I'll tell you once again. So if you are writing for 3 resistor films, that is one you're taking RB, another one you're taking RA, RB and RC. You're giving an electric field E, which is induced. The TE10 mode, which you're considering the transverse electric and magnetic fields. So since the circular waveguide section is here, it will convert from rectangular waveguide to circular waveguide such that it will go to TE11 mode. When you go for TE11 mode, the resistor film or the center section of your resistor, can be rotated 360 degree at some angle which you take. At some angle, there is a rotation and you get both electric and magnetic field. Electric field will be in the direction of E sin theta and E cos theta, such that E cos theta will be absorbed, E sin theta will travel further. So from TE10 mode, from a circular waveguide section, it is again converting back into rectangular waveguide section. So you have again E cos theta and E sin theta, which is observed. So you have E sin square theta, where this sin theta will be multiplied. So output of this particular waveguide, what you get is E sin square theta. When I find out the alpha with respect to incident wave, it is incident by reflected, which is E by E sin square theta. E and E will get cancelled, which is 1 by sin square theta. If I consider the S parameter with respect to 2 ports, 1 and 2, I can write reflected by incident, or it is 1 by S21. So if I write in terms of dB, it is 20 log of alpha in terms of, that is 1 by sin square theta. That is nothing but 20 log of 1 minus 20 log of sine square theta. This is again 0. So you'll have minus 20 log sine square theta. So 2 will get multiplied. You will have minus 40 log sine theta in terms of dB. Or for this equation, if I write in terms of S parameter, it is minus 20 log, sine square theta is nothing but S21. So it will be magnitude of S21. So this is the final equation of the precision variable attenuator in terms of S parameter. So you know that, or the precision rotator attenuator will produce the attenuation. This is what you're finding, how much attenuation you will be getting using this precision attenuator. So here, this will again depend on, you can see alpha is depending on the angle, that is theta, with respect to the resistive card, which is incident across the RB. And attenuators, usually you will have, they are reciprocal devices. So you can say the parameter or the property of reciprocity S21 magnitude is also equal to S12, so that you can write in terms of S12 here in the alpha, or in terms of your logarithm value. And if you're writing in terms of VSWR, the formula of VSWR in terms of S parameter is also equal to standing wave ratio, rho minus 1 divided by rho plus 1. This wave is always much lesser than 0.1 value. So when you measure the VSWR, so the ports will be connected and you're going to measure the VSWR based on this. And S matrix of an ideal rotatory is always given as, S11, S12, S21, S22. Now, since we are considering only these two parameters, so S matrix will take the form that is 0 sine square theta, because this is very much lesser, 0.1. So you are taking it as 0. One more is sine square theta, this is 0. So this is the S matrix for precision attenuator, variable attenuator. Any confusions? Is that okay? Or should I explain it once again?
No, it's okay, ma'am.
Okay. I'll clear the screen. So moving on to next topic with respect to chapter 1. So yesterday, what was the topic we discussed in chapter 1?
Yes, parameters of a two-port network.
Yeah, two-port network with mismatched load. So you have found out all 4 parameters of S matrix. The next topic, what you're seeing is, it will be comparison between the matrix S, matrix Z, and matrix Y. Can anybody tell me what comparison you can see for 3 matrix? You have just studied S matrix, but before that you have already studied in network analysis what is actually Z parameter and Y parameter. So how you can say that, or comparison, there are common properties which you can see in S parameter, Z parameter, and Y parameter? Or tell me the difference, anything is fine, whatever comes to your mind. What is S parameter usually related to in general? What you actually see in S parameter? Or how do you write S parameter in terms of reflected and incident? Say it is S21 or it's S21. Is it reflected by incident? Correct?
Reflected by incident.
Yeah. That means S parameter, the first difference you can say that it can relate, or it is related to mainly incident and reflected wave. S parameter is mainly related to incident and reflected wave. What does Z parameter give? Or what is Z? What is Z?
Impedance.
It is impedance. That means this is a parameter which will relate to impedance. What about Y?
Admittance.
This parameter y will relate to admittance. So
Admittance.
three different parameters in that you have S parameters, which is related to incident and reflected waves, whereas Z parameter is related to impedance. Similarly, Y parameter is related to admittance. One more. Now, S parameter, what about the frequencies of these three parameters? Which parameter will give you, or which is related for higher frequency and which are related for lower frequencies?
S parameter is for higher frequencies, I guess.
Yeah, because you're going for microwave. We have already seen we are not going for Z and Y for higher frequencies. That means this particular frequency, it is measured for higher frequency parameter. Whereas both your admittance and your impedance, these are measured for lower frequencies. Third, what and all you can measure using S parameters? What kind of parameters can be measured with respect to S parameter? Is that you're measuring power loss? Because you're going for attenuation. Similarly, you're measuring VSWR. You can measure reflection coefficient. So all these parameters can be measured going for S parameter. Whereas both your Z and Y parameters, they can measure your voltage as well as current. So when you consider admittance and impedance, they are mainly used to measure the voltage and admittance. Now, depending on the phase reference or depending on phase shift, if you consider your S parameter, if the reference planes are shifted, whatever you have seen in the phase shift property, you have seen that 1 and 1 dash, 2 and 2 dash, you are changing the reference planes. If you are changing the reference planes here, there will be a phase change in the S parameter also. So there occurs a phase change. Here, the phase change will mainly depend on the voltage and current. It depends on how your voltage is traveling or how your current is induced. So the phase change depends here on voltage and current phase. The fifth difference what you have is, if you consider the unitary property, this is mainly used to check, you can check for power balance, unitary property. When you check the power balance in both the devices or in the microwave device, mainly the unitary property will help for power balance. Here, there is no direct checking. You have to calculate the power and you have to check for the balance. So there is no direct checking in case of both the parameters for power balance. The last difference what you have is you require a reference plane here, so that you have to measure anything with respect to the reference plane. For example, here that port 1 and port 2 which you take, that will be the reference planes. So whichever the port you are measuring, the ports will act as a reference plane here. So reference plane is mandatory in case of S parameter, whereas here there are no reference planes which you consider for Z and Y parameters. So 6 different differences of your S, Z and Y are, you have reflected an incident wave with respect to S parameter. Here you will be measuring impedance and admittance. S parameter is mainly for higher frequency. Z and Y are for lower frequencies. You can measure the parameters like power loss, voltage standing wave ratio, reflection coefficients. Whereas in case of Z and Y, you measure the voltage and current. If you change the position of the reference plane in case of S parameter, the phase changes. Similarly here, when you consider Z and Y, the phase change will depend mainly on voltage and current phase. Power balance will be useful to check using the unitary property in a microwave device. Here, there is no direct checking for power balance. Reference planes are mandatory in case of S parameters, whereas here it is not required. Is that okay? Okay. Now, there are certain common properties what Z, Y, and your S parameters share. So you have to write down now what are the common parameters or common properties of, or common property which Z, Y, and S follows. There are 3 or 4 different categories which come under the common property. The first thing is, if you have observed the S parameter or your Y parameter and Z parameter, the number of elements what you see in the matrix are equal. Because if you write for S matrix, you can see there are 4 elements. If you write Y matrix, there are again 4 elements. Similarly, if you write for Z matrix, if you consider a 2-port network. So the number of elements in all the matrices are same. The second one is, you know that reciprocity theorem, that is for a reciprocal device, both your Z as well as your S satisfy the reciprocity theorem. That is, you know, Zij is also equal to Zji and Sij is equal to Sji. Similarly, if you write for Y, it will be Yij is equal to Yji. Because you have a topic where you have applied the pointing theorem and you have proved that Zij is equal to Zji and Yij is equal to Yji. From the S parameter property, we know that symmetry property of Sij is also equal to Sji, which means that for a reciprocal devices, both your Z and S parameter will satisfy the property of reciprocity. That is also a common property which you can see. The third one is, if your Z is symmetrical, even your S is also symmetrical. So both the cases, Z and Y or Z, Y and S will satisfy the symmetricity property. That is the third parameter. And the fourth one, what you have is advantages of S over Z and Y. Can you tell me what are the advantages of S parameter while you compare Z and Y? Now you know what actually Z and Y are. Tell me what are the advantages of going for S parameter. Anybody?
We can use using the high frequency also here.
Yeah, using high frequency, that will be one advantage. Next.
We can find power loss, all the things we discussed in previous section. Power loss, we can find
Yeah.
VSWR, reflection coefficient.
Yes,
So
correct.
that is advantages.
Yeah, good. Next. Any other? Okay. The first thing what he said, that is in microwave techniques, if you take, the source remains ideally constant here, even though the circuit changes. Because you know the microwave source which you take, the frequencies are very higher. The source cannot be changed here. Even though the circuit is changed, the source will remain constant. So besides your frequency measurement, that is from a microwave frequency, you can also measure frequency. Besides your frequency measurement, there are so many parameters which you can measure. That is, consider you can measure the VSWR, or you can measure power, or you can measure, other than this, there are many parameters like phase also. So all these parameters can be measured. So their essential measurements, what you have, that is, if you say reflection coefficient, or that is B by A, magnitude of A square, magnitude of B square. So these are the essential measurements which you require in the microwave frequency. Whereas such kind of measurements are not there in case of your Z matrix or your Y matrix. That is the first advantage of going for S parameter. The second advantage is, you know, the unitary property, as I've told you, it will check the power balance. The unitary property, it will help you to quickly check the power balance, mainly in a lossless structure. So such kind of check is not there in case of Z and Y parameters. So that is one more advantage. The third advantage what you have is, you know, the S parameter, it has a reference plane, which are nothing but your ports. So these reference planes are given only for the S parameters. Now, if these reference planes are changed, you know that S coefficients will vary with respect to the phase. Whereas this is not there in case of your Z and Y parameters, because you know voltage and current are the functions of impedance and admittance with respect to both magnitude and phase change. So the same thing which you have discussed in the difference, the same thing will become advantage here. So with respect to the frequency, you can measure different parameters. You can balance the power using the unitary property, and you can have a reference plane where you can change the phase of your S plane. So these three are also important. It will be combined and asked in the exam. Like, what are the different common properties of the S parameter, as well as to give the advantage over the S parameters. So make sure you study properly. What are the advantages of S over Z matrix?
Can you explain the third point again, ma'am? Reference plane.
Yeah, you will have, yes, you know, the S parameter is defined for given set of reference plane. Suppose we take a two-port network, one will become your reference plane, two also will become the reference plane. Now, if this reference plane changes, that means the same phase shift property I'm explaining you here. Say 1 dash you're changing, 2 dash you're changing. You have seen that there were parameters which was giving you j phi 1 e to the power minus j phi 1, similarly e to the power j phi 2 and e to the power minus j phi 2, which means that the S parameter was multiplied with this phase change. So if the reference planes are changed from their original position, the S coefficients will vary with the phase. So that is with respect to S parameter. Whereas when you come for Z and Y parameters, you know, what about the voltage? That is voltage and the current, if you consider, these are nothing but the functions of complex impedance. Because, you know, when you write for Z in terms of voltage, you know, the magnitude we represent it as A plus JB. Or if you write for phase theta, we write it as tan inverse of B by A. So here you will have the complex conjugate terms or complex impedance coming into effect. Therefore, your magnitude also changes and phase also changes. So both the cases, the magnitude and phase will mainly depend on voltage and current phase. Whereas it is difference in terms of S plane. S plane gets multiplied with the phase change, whereas the coefficients will vary with the phase. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll clear the screen. Now we have last one more topic, then we can move into the problems maybe from tomorrow's class. There is a concept called relations of Z, Y, and ABCD parameters with S parameters. You have to relate these parameters with respect to the ABCD parameters or with respect to S parameters. Now you know the relation of, for example, if you write the matrix for Z, the matrix of Z will take the form, initial class we have seen, V1, V2, which is also equal to Z11, Z12, Z21, Z22 with respect to the current, that is I1 and I2. From this equation, if I write for V1, what will be V1 from this matrix?
Z11 I1 plus
Z11 I1 plus
Z12 I2.
Z12 I2. You're just multiplying the row with the column. Next, similarly, if I write for V2, it is Z21 I1 plus Z22 I2. So if I consider this as first equation and this as your second equation. Now next is you have to rearrange this equation 2. If I rearrange this equation 2, or since we are relating this with ABCD, first we'll write what is actually the ABCD equation of the voltage and current. The general form of the ABCD equation of the current and voltage is, that is V1 by I1, which is also equal to the matrix, that is A, B, C, sorry, minus B and minus D. This is general equation V2, I2. From this, I will be writing for V1. If I write for V1, it will be A into V2 minus B into I2. This I'll consider it as third equation. Similarly, if I write for I1, it will be C into V2 minus D into I2. So this is fourth equation. Now rearrange this equation 2. That is, rearrange equation 2 so that I will write in terms of I1. I1 will be equal to, can you tell me what is I1 from this? Okay, I'll write it in very simpler
V2
way.
minus Z22 I2 divided by
Yeah,
Z21.
V2 minus Z22 I2. Now from this, if I write for I1, the equation will be V2 divided by Z21 minus I2 into Z22 divided by Z21. Consider this equation as 5. You can write down till here, then I'll continue. Consider the Z parameter equation and your ABCD parameter equation. From this, just split the matrix and write it for V1, V2, V1, I1. Now considering equation 2, I have written the equation in terms of I1. So I1 will be V2 by Z21 minus I2 Z22 by Z21. I clear the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, compare your equation 5 and equation 4. Wait, I'll write the equation of 4, that is I1 is equal to CV2 minus DI2, which is your equation 4. Equation 5 is I1 is equal to V2 by Z21 minus Z22 by Z21 I2. Now, compare equation 4 and equation 5. What will be the equation I will be getting? Compare 4 and 5. You can just compare the terms.
C will
So,
be equal to 1 by Z21.
yeah, CV2 is equal to V2 by Z21, where V2 and V2 will cancel. You will have 1 by Z21. Similarly, the other term, that is DI2 is equal to Z22 by Z21 I2, where I2 will be cancelled. And you will have D is equal to Z22 divided by Z21. Now substitute these values in equation 5, this equation. Substitute C and D values in equation 5. So the equation will be, equation, just a
4,
second,
ma'am.
just a second. Yeah, tell me. Don't write the step, that is the next step I've written. Once you get the C and D value, substitute equation 5 and equation 1. That is, you have the fourth equation 5 as I1 value, what you have got. That I1 value you have to substitute for equation 1. So the step will be substitute equation 5 in equation 1. So wherever you have I1, you will be substituting. You know the equation 1 is V1 is equal to Z11 I1 plus Z12 I2. So to this I1, substitute this value. So you'll have V1 is equal to Z11 bracket V2 by V21, sorry, Z21 minus Z22 by Z21 into I2 plus Z12 into I2. Now multiply it together. You will have Z11 by Z21 V2 minus Z11 Z22 divided by Z21 I2 plus Z12 I2. Any confusions? Just substitute the values of I1, then multiply it together. Simplify the equation. So you'll have for V1 voltage. Now here, the next step is consider this V1. You have Z11 by Z21 V2. You can see I2 is common in these two equations, this one and this one. So just take I2 outside. So you'll have the expression having Z11 Z22 divided by Z21 minus, because I've taken minus outside, this is Z12 into I2. Consider this as sixth equation. Now what you do is compare. Same, because C and D value you have got. Which all equations you need to compare now? So that you should have in the left side side.
3.
Yeah, left hand side you should have V1. So compare the equations. Equation 6 and equation 3. So from the equation 3, you know it is V1 is equal to AV2. So it will be AV2 is equal to Z11, Z21, V2. V2, V2 gets cancelled. A value you have Z11 by Z21. Similarly, B I2 will be equal to Z11, Z22 by Z21 minus Z12, I2 and I2 gets cancelled. B will take the value Z11, Z21, sorry, Z22, Z21 minus Z12. So this is the B value. So you can write the matrix after this as, since you're finding it for Z matrix, so Z matrix is also equal to matrix Z is equal to A, B, C, D. So the equations will be Z11 by Z21, B will be Z11, Z22, Z21 minus Z12, C will be 1 by Z21, D is Z22 by Z21. So this is the matrix of Z. It is understood? Okay. Now the homework for you is, similarly how I have done for Z, do it for Y and come. Find out same way, you're just writing the Y equation. For the Y, find out what are the ABCD values you're getting.